Hello, Internet. Welcome again to the Educator.com writing composition course. We're going over major and minor details. Got an introduction, we got a topic, we got a thesis, still got more paragraphs, don't we? Well, in this lesson we are going to go over these three right here, body paragraphs 1, 2, and 3. And at the end, I'm going to give you a closing on how to write a closing paragraph, which it turns out is a lot like the introduction paragraph, which is why it's going to be in this lesson. So, let's continue. We got a triangle here. The triangle represents what's most broad and what's most narrow. Your topic and thesis is the most general thing that you can come up with. And below that, we have what are called major details. These are details that are still connected to the topic and the thesis somehow, but they're a little bit more narrow, a little bit more specific. Finally, at the very bottom, we got minor details, which are, microscopically specific. You would never want to mention these in the introduction paragraph because they're so small that if you did that, you might confuse your reader. Let's read a sample essay, and then we'll go backwards and figure out what's the topic and what are the major details. So, three great American authors are Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, and F. Scott Fitzgerald. All right, why did I highlight those three things? Well, it's the very first one, and I got the number 3 there. That's giving me a big hint as to what the topic is. And then if I kind of skim this, I notice that Mark Twain comes up, and then here we go, we got Poe, and then we have Poe again and F. Scott Fitzgerald. All right? And if I notice here, let's just read where it talks about Poe. We have, in contrast, Poe wrote scary stories. One example is A Telltale Heart. So, what is my topic? What is my thesis? What are my major and minor details? Well, I got my topic and my thesis was the very first sentence, wasn't it? We have three great American authors. And we mentioned Edgar Allan Poe, Mark Twain, and F. Scott Fitzgerald. Well, I bet that one of those major details is going to be Edgar Allan Poe. What did Edgar Allan Poe write? Well, that's a minor detail, The Telltale Heart. So, that is how I would divide up that particular triangle between topic, major, and minor details. So, what makes a major detail? How do we know what a major detail is instead of a minor detail? Well, first off, a major detail is often right out said in the thesis. Edgar Allan Poe, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Mark Twain. And they support the thesis directly. They have something to say that is relevant to the thesis. And they're generally broad enough that you could write an entire paragraph about them. And that's often how they're divided. And we also have these things called keywords, little signals that let you know that a major detail is coming when we're writing. So you might use first, second, third, maybe furthermore, in contrast, finally, or next. In the next couple lessons, I'm going to go into much greater detail about these keywords, but I'm just giving you those samples right now. Minor details, on the other hand, are never mentioned directly in the thesis. If they are mentioned directly in the thesis, then they're a major, not a minor detail, or maybe, you need to rechange your thesis. So they support the thesis indirectly, because they support what? They support the major details. They're still relevant, but not as directly relevant as major details. Minor details are usually specific examples, statistics, specific instances, and we have common keywords for them. We might say, for example, to illustrate, shown by, and for instance. And again, I'm going to be going over those in greater detail in future lessons. For now, just be aware that there are keywords that let you know minor details are coming too. So let's read the sample essay again, and I'm going to highlight the major and minor details as well as certain keywords. So we already kind of know what the thesis was. It's that right there. So what's my next sentence? Mark Twain was a humor author in the 19th century. Mark Twain. There's my major supporting detail. He is known for Huckleberry Finn, a story about the South. His works are always funny. In contrast, in contrast is a keyword. It's letting me know I'm changing from a previous topic or major detail. Poe wrote scary stories. One example, wait, what was example again? Is A Telltale Heart. Poe also wrote mystery. Finally, whoops, hey, I'm getting another details coming. There is F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote in the early 20th century. His most famous work is A Great Gatsby, a story about a party life in the Roaring '20s. So I'm just going to type in 1 here, I'm going to put 2 over here, and 3 here for my major supporting details. And you can kind of see how this is all constructed and put together. If I put this in an outline format, it would look something like this. My topic, 3 great American authors. Major detail, Mark Twain, and I have 2 minor details for him. He's Huck Finn, and he's a humor author. Then, my next major detail was Mr. Edgar Allan Poe. Minor details, scary story, and one example was The Telltale Heart. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Only had 1 minor detail for him, but it was The Great Gatsby. So, let's pretend that you were to make that outline that I just made before you started writing. So what would your major details be? Well, let's take a look at the sample theses from last week and let's go over them. Adventure, romance, and careers are all common types of reality TV. So, what's my topic and thesis? 3 kinds of reality TV. What's one major detail? Adventure reality TV. What would I put for minor details? What would you put? You'd probably want to come up with some examples of adventure reality TV. Maybe you want to tell me what these activities of reality TV are. Think about that for a moment. Those would be the minor details. Let's see, here's another thesis. Voldemort's return, horrid headmasters, and character deaths all make Order of the Phoenix the darkest and greatest of the series. What are my major details here? What have I mentioned directly in the thesis? Killing Muggles? My topic and thesis, Harry Potter Book 5, and the major detail is Voldemort's return. And what are some minor details? Well, specific instances, specific examples. Well, right at the beginning, he kills Muggles, and he calls the Death Eaters. He does a lot of bad things, that Voldemort, doesn't he? So there we go. Order of the Phoenix is the best because we see Harry rise to the challenge of leadership. So what's my topic and thesis again? Well, we got Harry the leader, and we got one major detail. Didn't mention it directly in the thesis, but one of those major details is few people believe Harry. So what's a minor detail? Maybe I want to ask about who believes Harry and who doesn't believe Harry, and why people don't believe Harry. That'd be one good paragraph to start and explain why Harry rises to the challenge of leadership. So, few people believe Harry, who does and who doesn't, why, and how does Harry react? Next thing we're going to discuss is organizations and transitions. So I'm going to go with a popular health diet is a so-called caveman diet. Haven't given you much description, haven't given you much definition, but let's pretend this is a thesis, and now let's read on. Let's read this paragraph together and see how it feels. The caveman diet prescribes a lot of meat and vegetables. The caveman dieters eat a lot of beef, chicken, and fish. They have recipes to cook pasta with green vegetables. A hamburger wrapped in bacon is a recipe that caveman dieters follow. Caveman dieters do not eat a lot of grains, bread, or pasta. Spaghetti is not something that cavemen normally eat. The nutrition that bread gives can also make you overweight, according to cavemen. Okay, that sounded very stilted, very boring, very robotic. In fact, I kind of sounded like a caveman when I was writing that. So, how could you improve this so that it flows a little bit better? Let's add some transitions. The caveman diet prescribes a lot of meat and vegetables. For example, caveman dieters eat a lot of beef, chicken, and fish. Additionally, they have recipes to cook pasta with green vegetables. A hamburger wrapped in bacon is another recipe that caveman dieters follow. On the other hand, Cavemen dieters do not eat a lot of grains, bread, or pasta. For instance, spaghetti is not something that cavemen normally eat. Furthermore, the nutrition that bread gives also makes you overweight, according to cavemen. Can you see how that's better? How you now have clues to where the minor details are, and how it just sounds better. It doesn't sound stilted and robotic, and it doesn't make you sound like a caveman. If you don't want to sound like a caveman, make sure you know how to use these transitions. The next couple of lessons, we're going to be going over specific types of keywords, but for now, here are some quick samples. You might say first, second, third. That's a great way to let people know that major details are coming. I'm going to give you 3 things to talk about. First, this. Second, this. Third, this. If I want to let the reader know that I'm changing gears, I might say however, in contrast, or on the other hand. If you're kind of continuing on with the same point, you write down furthermore, additionally, or another. For those very specific minor supporting details, for example, for instance, specifically, and to illustrate are the kind of words you should use. So, now that we've kind of gone over transitions, let's talk about that closing paragraph. And I'm only going to say a few things about the closing paragraph because it's actually pretty much the introduction paragraph. Here's how it works. In a closing paragraph, you need to restate the topic in the thesis. Now, notice I said restate, not repeat. Here's how it works. Here's the original thesis. 3 great American authors are Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, and F. Scott Fitzgerald. My closing paragraph, I'm going to restate this. I'm going to rephrase it so that the reader knows that they're getting to the end because they recognize the thesis. But I'm not repeating the thesis because then that sounds boring. Here's some examples. Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, and F. Scott Fitzgerald are some of the best writers of the United States. Thesis in different words. Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, and F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote some of the best works to come from America. Slightly different, but I'm still restating the thesis. America gave at least 3 excellent authors, so on and so forth. Restating the thesis, not repeating it. It sounds better. Also, let's summarize important points and never add new information in that last closing paragraph. If you're adding new information in the closing paragraph, it's not your closing paragraph. It's one of the body paragraphs, and you need to take that information you're writing and put it in either the thesis or put it in one of the body paragraphs, never in the closing paragraph. Finally, you need to use sample keywords, and these keywords are the ones that you use when you're closing the last paragraph. I might just say, in closing, to sum up, to wrap up, to finish, with all this said, and then you're going to refer back to the first paragraph. Maybe you're going to remind the reader about the anecdote you mentioned. Maybe you'll mention the quote that they really liked. Or maybe you're going to repeat and then answer that rhetorical question. It's all up to you. This is kind of stylistic. Closing paragraph just needs to mirror the introduction. Let's go ahead and go to assignments. On our website, we have an essay for you, and it's called Become a Rock Star. I need you to find the thesis, the 3 major details, and at least 5 minor details. And also, find at least 7 key words that were used in that writing. How was that subject introduced? And how do the first and last paragraph connect? How do they mirror each other? How are they similar? Continue reading Wrinkle in Time 6-7 and Brave New World Chapter 14. Coming along with those stories, and I really hope that you're liking them. Until then, thanks for using educator.com.